We will be asking you to vote a little bit later on again in the evening. But first, I want to turn to you, and I'll count to 3 to see if a hand goes up. If anybody, oh, okay. Harry Lewis.
I'd just like to point out that our opposition has tried both tactics to persuade you to vote against the motion. They've said that evil means Hitler, Pol Pot, and the worst gulags of the Soviet Union. And they've also said, no, they mean by evil something that's a much higher standard. Now, I would like to think, and I would like to ask the opposition if they don't think that when Google made their motion, made their motto, don't be evil, that they were not holding them to the standard that they shouldn't be as evil as Pol Pot, Hitler, and the worst of the Soviet Union, and anything better than that, they would get a pass on the don't be evil.
Jim Harper, take that on. Jim Harper speaking for the motion.
The question is as to the motto, and I spoke to both versions, the actual genuine meaning of the word evil, but what they may have meant, which is the sort of corporate greed kind of thing. Greed, which as Siva pointed out, drives them wrongly, apparently, to compete with eBay and Microsoft and Amazon. That's not an indictment of a company to say that they're competing with others, trying to serve consumers better than with whom they compete. By any standard, Google is not violating the don't be evil policy that they put forward.
Jim, your teammate Esther Dyson.
Yeah, the purpose of this motto is that these guys are smart and they are aware of the possibility of evil. They are aware that their extraordinary success and their extraordinary ability to collect information gives them a lot of power, and they do not want to abuse it. The other thing I'd like to point out is that using Google is voluntary. Pol Pot, all these dictators, they were not voluntary. Google, whether it wanted to be evil or not, is constrained by the forces of competition, and it's well aware of that. It has to earn your favor. It discloses to you what it does with your information. You can go and search your web history. So they're using their power to do good and to make the world more transparent.
Siva, you want to jump in?
Yeah, Jim, you've fallen into my trap.
Siva, can you just close to your mic a little bit?
Of course. So you've fallen into my trap by citing the fact that every company should be expected to compete and should, in fact, probably be extravagant, be gluttonous, be greedy, be slothful, be wrathful, and be envious, and, of course, hubristic. Every company should, because that's what companies should do. They should compete, they should win, they should crush.
No, they should win, they should not crush.
You've fallen into your own bog.
And by that I say, it is for the companies to violate the 7 deadly sins and not to pretend they don't, and it is for popes and poets to warn us against it.
Randy Picker, let me bring in Randy Picker for the motion.
I hate to be a textualist, but I brought the registration statement with me, right? Let's see what it says. Don't be evil. We believe strongly that in the long term we will be better served as shareholders and in all other ways by a company that does good things for the world, even if we forego some short-term gains. The question is, when does Google, faced with a conflict between what's good for the world, sacrifice its own interests? I don't think it's doing that.
Jarvis?
May it rest in peace.
Yes.
Shall we have a moment of silence for Jerry Yang, dearly departed?
Good radio. Continue.
Yes. Yahoo was the last old structure, the last old media company. Google is a new company. Eric Schmidt was asked recently by Jim Cramer how much they could make by putting ads on their homepage. Some untold billions of dollars, he said. They chose not to do that. Is that good versus evil? I actually argue it is, because Google recognizes that it's not an end like Yahoo. It's not an old media company. It's a new media company that gets us to what we want to get to. That itself is a virtue. I think the problem we're having here is defining the fall from grace. And if we all define it the way you are trying to hold Google, then we're all going to hell. Because
this has been a very theological evening so far.
That word evil does it.
WWGD. And so I think that Google recognizes that life is a beta. Google puts out products and says they're not done yet, they are wrong, they're incomplete, please help us fix them. Google is not trying to say that they are ultimately absolutely virtuous. If we all tried to define ourselves that way, we'd be doomed.
Siva.
So Jeff has compared Google to Wall Street firms and said, wouldn't it be great if Wall Street firms had that motto chiseled in their buildings. He's compared Google to newspapers that have local monopolies and pointed out that newspapers, of course, fix prices on advertising. And now he's compared Google to Yahoo. None of that matters. It does not matter that any other company behaves badly or behaves in an evil way, because none of those companies ever were foolish enough to chisel such a motto into their buildings or their financial filing statements. Now, the fact is that Google has set its own standard and has not met its own standard.
It has set its own standard, and I believe it has met it. It has aspired to do good. It has, as I said, engaged in an evil world to make it better. To me, that's the opposite of evil.
Harry Lewis, do you think Google actually meant it when it said that it wanted to commit no evil, or was that the most cynical declaration of all time?
It was an aspirational statement.
They meant it.
And just as many of us make promises that we have to acknowledge we are unable to keep, Google has been unable, virtuously and continuously, to keep its aspirational promise. I think it's a good thing that Google made that aspirational promise. The question is whether it ever violates it, and the answer is plainly that it does.
Esther, you were talking about China. Harry says going to China, and essentially he's saying collaborating with the regime, and I choose all of those words because that's exactly what his point was, it was an act of evil. And you're arguing that a little access is a good thing.
No, I'm arguing a little access is a good thing, but I'm arguing something more important. It's not collaborating with the regime. It is infiltrating the regime. It is spreading information within China. It's exposing people to the virtues of knowledge. It's changing their expectations. It's creating more transparency. Long run, you will see that Google is going to change China by opening those cracks. Every time you open a crack and insert something in it, it starts to crumble.
We're going to hear from your teammate, Jeff Jarvis, in just a moment because he has something he wants to say. But at this point, I'd like to bring the house lights up. And if you have questions, raise your hands, and we have folks with microphones circulating. I know that there are some journalists in the audience, and we're happy to have your questions. We just would ask that you'd identify yourself. And if in some other way you have some dog in the fight, in a way that you would like to disclose, that would be a good thing, too.
No, we believe in disclosure regardless.
Jeff Jarvis.
Even if you wish that Google did differently in China, and frankly, I do. I wish they used their power. The important thing is to realize the basis upon which they made this decision. And they used their Don't Be Evil pledge as a basis to debate and decide this. They made their decision not out of pure greed, but out of the belief, agree with it or disagree with it, but out of the belief that they were trying to do good.